In this tutorial, you're going to learn how to make this little guy here. He's actually not that little. He's actually pretty big, and he wraps around from one shoulder all the way to right around where my waist is, which I also do have a tutorial on how to make this sword here too. So if you're thinking of cosplaying as Toji, I've got you covered. So here's how to make your very own inventory curse. He's actually pretty cute, and I call him my son. So let's get started. We're going to be using a pool noodle for the base of this. The first type of wire that I used to go and wrap this with was 18 gauge steel wire. This is, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced ook. I don't really know honestly, but this is going to create a really good sturdy base to be able to have some sort of form to keep at least shape on this, since we're going to be using spray foam after this. I started off with a larger, stronger wire, and then I moved on to a thinner type of wire after that. I wrapped the pool noodle a total of 3 times with this wire, and as you can see, I pressed it in on one side and I did bend it. Then I went around and I wrapped it 2 more times and did the same exact thing with this steel wire. After I had that wrapped 2 times, tucked the additional piece of wire in there, then I moved to a different type of wire, which is this floral wire here, and this is 25 gauge floral wire. And I just wrapped this a bunch of times. You can see here how much wire I ended up using, and it's keeping its shape now. It's going to make it really easy to bend, along with also shape to your body. You can see that I'm bending it here, figuring out how exactly I want this to be. And since this prop wasn't necessarily made for me, it was made for someone who's a little bit bigger than me, I left a decent amount of room with it. Now, I taped off the areas that I'm going to be spraying with spray foam because it's the next material that we're going to be using. So I sectioned out the different areas for the head, along with also different sections of the worm. I would say each section maybe was about 3.5 to 4 inches or so. I don't really know the exact measurement, but you can see how many different areas I taped off here. Now I am just spraying a bunch of spray foam and going absolutely and completely and totally crazy. The spray foam that I used was the 1-inch type spray foam. You'll see the can in a couple of minutes as I sprayed it here. And what I had to do was spray one side first, wait for that to fully set, which this took a couple of hours for it to fully set. Then I was able to flip it over and then move on to the next side after that side was dry. So you can see here I flipped it over. I'm filling in on that side and just building all of this material up. And pretty much going from there. I ended up using 3 cans of spray foam for this, which, yes, it does seem like a lot, especially because we do carve the shape of this. You could probably get away with using 2 cans of spray foam, but I wanted to make sure I had a great amount of material to go and work with, and I was able to go and shape this because this is actually a pretty large prop. Now, I am using this carving knife here to go around the entirety of this, shaping everything, cutting the foam down, and figuring out exactly how I want this guy to go and look. While you're doing this step, please be very, very, very careful. You're going to need to use probably a serrated knife to go and do this, or an electric carving knife just to speed everything up. I don't have one of those though, so I did everything by hand, which this took about 45 minutes to go and fully and totally shape this guy. And you can see what I'm doing is I'm trying to round out the pieces as much as I possibly can, along with also cut into those different sectioned areas to create the different pieces of the worm's body as I pretty much go along. So here's just a little bit more of me cutting. You can go and fast forward a couple of seconds from here. Now, make sure it looks good on your body, test it out, see it's going to fit properly, and you can always cut more material away if it doesn't. Then I decided best thing to do, sand this out, get these pieces as rounded as I possibly can, and use the sandpaper to create these divots. This really helped to go and create so much more of the shape of this guy, and I'm glad that I didn't end up skipping this step, because if I did, he would have been so much more bumpy, and just it wouldn't have looked like the worm. It wouldn't have looked like the way that I wanted it to come out. So sanding, great idea. Make sure you do that. And before you put any other material on, make sure you tap this and try to get all of that foam off. Then you can go and sketch out pretty much where you're going to put the eyes, along with also other things. This is a really, really rough sketch, and he kind of looks like that one lady from SpongeBob that's like chocolate, but I'm terrible at impressions. So the clay that I ended up using is from Make Market. It is a modeling foam that is great for cosplay. You can paint over it after it dries, and you do have to wait 48 hours to go and paint over it. Also make sure too, because the next thing that I do after I sculpted this face, I spray paint this. Make sure when you spray paint, it is not a humid day. If it's a humid day, you might have issues with that stuff setting, especially on this material. So here I am sculpting some of the face. I did use this material throughout the entirety of this worm, and I ended up using 2.5 of these containers. I actually ended up buying 5 because they were only $14 over at Michael's. And I put some fake teeth in. So here he is after it dried. 48 hours later, he was good to go and spray paint. I did put some teeth into there, so I put some resin teeth into there. I took them out before I started spray painting him. Here is the color purple that I ended up using. Now again, I am absolutely not a professional in doing cosplay, but how this guy turned out, incredible. I'm really surprised I was able to create something like this. Now with spray paint, you need to layer it. You can't just go all crazy, because if you do, you're going to have these little areas that drip, or you're just going to have areas that are patchy, uneven, kind of look gross. And really with spray paint, it's about stacking the layers, taking your time, letting all of those layers dry as well too. After the purple was dry, I used some black spray paint to create some shadow. I did that on the inner portion of him, along with also at the different indented areas for each and every little bump. Then to finish off with some of the details, I used some acrylic paint. I made some shadow. I used a little bit of a darker purple, along with also a lighter purple for some of the highlights. And I absolutely love how his face ended up turning out. I think that it just was so incredibly cool, especially when it was spray painted. I was really, really excited just to start painting him. Then I filled in the white portion of the eye there. And I decided, you know what, especially because of the anime, he's got some little hairs on his head. So I added just some little tiny hairs with a cut piece from a pink wig that I had, because you know what, why not? It made him look gross. It made him look so much more like the actual worm from the anime, and it just brought out so much more of him. So after I glued that down, then I put his teeth back in place. I used some resin teeth that I purchased off of Amazon a while back, and these things, they look creepy. I think it just pulls so much more detail to this entire piece, and it looks silly. I know it looks silly, but I love it. I love how it turned out with the teeth. Then here he is. This took about 15 hours to go and make. With dry time, it took about 5.5 days to fully complete this piece. I absolutely love how it turned out, and for the cosplay, it's going to be so incredibly wild when I actually use it on the 19th. So literally the day after this video is going up. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this tutorial has helped you, and go make yourself an inventory curse. All right, bye.